You're listening to the Our Erie podcast with DaVona Pacley,
Marty Nwachukwu,
and Lydia Laythe.
We're here to highlight community voices and bring new perspectives to the table.
We are unpacking Erie's and America's baggage.
We're speaking truth to power.
Take a seat. All right. Well, first off, it's really, really awesome to be back for another episode. We brought today some beautiful doulas, fellow doulas with me. Today we have Tica, Nickson, and Kristen in the building with us. And so I'm just going to let y'all introduce yourselves and tell us who you are.
My name is Tica Nickson. I have lived here my whole life. I am a birth doula. I'm a wife. I'm a mommy. I'm a sister. I'm an auntie. I'm a birth doula, and I'm also a lactation counselor.
Yes.
My name is Kristen Weeks. I am many things. I also am a doula, as well as a student of midwifery. I'm a massage therapist. I do trauma, body work. I'm a community herbalist. I mean, yeah, those are good things. I'll share those things. I'm a food advocate. That's a big one.
Yes, you're all the things. You said, all the things.
All the things.
I'm very, very honored to have Kristen and Tica with me today because I, on my my journey of becoming a birth doula, connected with them too. But I've also connected with Tica because I've known Tica ever since I was younger. You know what I'm saying? So this is actually just very full circle that I was able to, take the time to, become a doula. So should we just hop in? Should we just hop in with let's just do this.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to know how the both of you became a doulas and what it got to you, what brought you to that point.
Do you want to start?
Whoever wants to. Yeah, jump in.
So I had babies and I could not afford a doula. Someone told me about this fantastic woman that came alongside of women when they were laboring, and there was nothing medically about it. It was just her reassurance and comfort and helped her feel secure. And I was like, I want a doula. But my husband was a teacher, and I just worked part-time. So I didn't have $1,000 extra for a doula. So I kind of tucked it away as I wish I could have. So when the opportunity came for me after I finished having my kids, to go back into the workforce, I really wanted to do something that was worth my time and my energy. So that's when the doula field came up again. It just kept coming up throughout my maternity time, and it just kept resurfacing. So I finally decided, well, let's go ahead and do this. And when I did it, I wanted to serve women like me, women that did not have the means to pay for the care of a doula. So I was fortunate enough, also in part to DaVona's dad, to apply for a job in the school district, in the Erie School District with a parenting program. And one of the cool parts of my job is that I get to educate the young men and women about childbirth, pregnancy, lactation, and then I get to some of our girls, I get to doula them. So that's how I became a doula, and kind of how I fell into community-based doulas, where I'm serving women that aren't paying me. It put me in a position to do what I wanted to do with my training. So that's how and why I became a doula.
Yes.
So I think I've always known that I was going to be a birth worker of some sort. I knew that was part of the reason why I showed up on Earth this lifetime, for sure. I had some karmic debts to pay, which is fine. Um, I had home births with both my children, and I recognized that there was a huge shift in me, not only as a woman birthing, but also just as a human being. And I recognize that, it's a huge lesson giving birth is. And if one does not have the support, right, or, feel courageous or, safe, then it makes labor a lot harder. So I was a single mom with 2 children, and now my children are almost grown. And I was like, it's time. And then worked out with Tica, getting a group together. And sure enough, doing that, I used to do doula work prior to that with home births a lot, just mainly friends. Most of my friends are home birthers. And so I just realized like, this is such an amazing honor to be at birth, to be able to connect to the primal energies of which women and birthing people have inside of them. And so I was like, I want to hop on that train. So I pretty much got there.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, y'all. I feel like I need to like share my story now. Like,
Yeah, please.
all right. So yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I need to then do that because how I got connected was through the 2 women that are sitting here with me. But I would say for me, birthing has always been a part of my life in some form, like whether it's a new experience or whether it is a new mindset or a new perspective. And, I've always been a nurturer and I've always been one that cared for my siblings. And so I felt like it was something for me that was just a no-brainer. I had wanted to really, when I had found out about doula work, it was something I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. I feel like that is my calling in a way, but I don't know. I didn't know what it was about. But now, being in this space, I found that through the birth work and through the doula work, I've actually learned and healed my own self. And through this work, so it's hard to explain, but doing this has actually been me birthing my new self. And so assisting now, people who want to, whether birthing a child or birthing, the wanting to be a child, a parent, I really was like, that is for me. I've always had like a parental soul about myself. My mom always say, your siblings think you're also like the second mom. That's always just been, that's been me. So I just think that, this position and being where I'm at is the start of a journey. And I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I can say I'm a birth doula now, but I feel like it's going to transform in some other way. But that is what led me to like this position and being here. I really, really wanted to, do a doulaship, but I wanted to do it in Atlanta. And when I found out that Miss Tica was a doula, somebody was like, yeah, just connect with her. And I was like, wait, Tica's a doula? And so we got connected and she was able to kind of assist me through becoming a doula through the student parenting program. And so we're here. And I met Kristen. I met Kristen in the class, but I actually met Kristen before we met even in the class. And she doesn't remember, but I met her at Whole Foods Co-op, which is another place that I love. So when I met Kristen at Whole Foods Co-op, then I saw her at the class. I said, oh my gosh, like this is a divine connection. So now I have beautiful ladies here with us today. Talking with us. So I'm just really excited to have y'all here and really for people to see that, especially here in Erie, they're like Black doulas are existing, and not, I feel that it's definitely a need. It's definitely a need in our community. And I'm really happy to be a part of. This is a very radical thing. I don't think a lot of people think doula work and birth work is very radical. And, to sit here with also other women who are organizers and community organizers and have us all sit at the table is really lit. So I'm just, I'm excited about this.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so as an outsider to this, and I know Tica, you kind of touched on this already about like what doulaship is, but can someone explain to the listeners, like what is a doula? What is all encompassed in this? What do you do for someone if they need support?
Everything. We do a lot. We do a lot of, we call it empowering. We want you to know more about your body. We want you to know more about pregnancy so that you can kind of come into your own and advocate for yourself. And we're there to walk you through that. I always think of it as me being a witness to a woman's birth, not necessarily a help. Like I don't do it for. There's nothing that I'm going to do that's going to take away any of the intensity of what she's going through. But I feel like I'm more of a witness to her empowerment because I think society has it so that we like women are made to feel weak in their maternity. But I think that's the strongest I've ever been is when I'm growing and pushing out a baby. Like there's never been a stronger Tica. So I love to be with women so that they can feel safe and secure in that space and they can just come into their own. So we do a lot of just supporting and encouraging and I'm trying to think of the word, just helping that person, that woman or the birthing person through the experience, because it's an experience. It's a life-changing experience. Like DaVona was saying, it's almost like you're reborn as a doula every time, just because you're kind of nurturing that woman. So we do a lot in regards of, and that's why I just say everything, like whatever that woman needs to feel empowered and protected and safe, is what we do. Mm-hmm. Add to that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really great explanation. I since I started doing midwifery, I recognize that there are very specific parts of life for every person that are initiations. And there's something called the blood mysteries. And a lot of different cultures talk about them and how birth is a blood mystery. And whereas like the doula is the kind of almost keeper of like not only the woman or the birthing person while they're giving birth, but also like kind of like a gatekeeper, because I don't think a lot of people recognize that like when a woman dilates to 10 centimeters, essentially you become like a portal and you're bringing life down out and into the earth, right? So I think with doulas, like it's also like this support, right, with this initiation, right? So not only do doulas, support people while they're actually laboring and delivering and educate, hopefully, educating if they want to know, but also, afterwards, right? So postpartum, that's a huge part of it because someone's world has completely changed, right? You've been initiated into motherhood or, just parenting. And it's like, whoa, it's generally brand new. And I think it's brand new almost every time to get the hang of it, sure. But, so it's that like, it's a really deep bond that can happen between, agreeing people like, hey, this is agreement. Like, I'll be here. I'll bear witness. I'll hold space. I'll, do everything that I can in my power to help you feel empowered. But then I'm also probably going to be in your life, if you allow it, afterwards as well. Mm-hmm. So it's a really powerful position and honor to have, truly.
Well, and I think that's so powerful. I was, my aunt is a nurse out in Idaho, but she sent me an article a while ago, and maybe one of you have read it, or you can correct me on like statistics, but it was all about the abuse that a lot of laboring people or pregnant people face in the hospital, that their bodily autonomy is not respected. They say, I don't want this, I do want this. And because in the medical model, it's a very top down, like, nope, the doctor knows best. It doesn't matter what you say or what you think as a human being or what you think about your body and what feels right. Like that is so disrespected. And that there's like huge like violations of people's rights that happen in like a labor and delivery space, that when I read the article, I was like shocked, which like in some ways wasn't surprising because I know that model and like the attitudes that some people in that space can hold about like, I know better than you. But so I just think that that's so powerful for anyone that doesn't know, like, look this information up, because like having a witness there, like truly a witness, and someone, like you said, like a gatekeeper or someone to like hold space and someone to like respect your boundaries and enforce those boundaries for you when you're like at your most like powerful and vulnerable and like most intense, you have someone there that can support you. I just think that that's so powerful.
So in one of the things that we call that birth rape,
Yeah.
that's what it's called. I mean, it's a rape. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's rape. Essentially, you know, and it does happen. It does.
Right.
I've seen it.
Horrific amount of time, like so
Absolutely.
often. And so many people probably don't even identify it as such because we've been taught to be so far removed from our bodies as women, or as people giving birth, that it's like, I guess it's not up to me. I guess this is happening. Like, and just how, anyway.
And it almost makes you wonder, like, in what space can I have power over my body then? Because even as far as being in, you know, as a person birthing a child, I can't even tell you this is how I want to do it, because most of the time your body's already normally going to do what it's supposed to do. Right. And I see people trying to like force that, and that should not be forced. That should be something that is encouraged, where, okay, you use your, you know, you are trusting yourself, you're trusting the power that you have. And oftentimes, like you said, that is taken away. And that, to me, like what Kristen said, witnessing that is, especially within the hospital setting, is very discouraging. And it makes you, you know, for me, it made me like really question, like, okay, is this something that I really want to do? And I've only had one birth so far. It's like, is this something I want to do within the hospital setting, or do I want to take that out and say, okay, let's then start encouraging our moms to do home births? And I think that's something that a lot of people are, you know, scared of doing. But we've all talked about it. And I think that home births are super important. But again, you know, there's a lot of things that come with that.
Right. Well, autonomy is a big thing, right? And I mean, we see our government always trying to take away women's autonomy, right? Especially when it has to do with our bodies. And I think the biggest thing is recognizing the model of care which hospitals have as a technocratic model of care, which is they want to control the situation, right? To them, birth is a medical event. It's not a medical event, right? So they manage it. That's what they do, because their most important thing is to make sure that everybody's healthy and okay, right? Like in delivery. So anything outside of scopes of like what is normal, they augment it, they fix it, they try to make things right. So often women, I mean, and like, to be honest, like if women don't want to be empowered, then as a doula, there's nothing you can do truly but witness it, because you have no power. So you have to, as a birthing person, say, this is my body. This is what my boundaries are. This is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm willing to allow you to do. Yes, you will wait until I tell you it's okay to vaginally check me, right? Like all these things, like that's a big thing. So, you know, but at some point, the birthing person has to say, like, enough is enough.
Absolutely.
No more, right? Like, this is what I'm doing. And then as a doula, we're supposed to be the ones to say, like, hey, like, didn't you want to do this? Right? Like, hey, like, what are our other options? Is this an emergency? Right? Like those kinds of things, but empowering, right? So taking that narrative and giving it back to the birthing person, right? And maybe OBGYNs will listen, maybe they won't. It just depends on each person, right? And what they're comfortable with and the amount of control that they'll let go of.
Yeah, that's true.
Birth is a scary thing for most people that don't understand it.
Yeah.
And I think as doulas, one of our initial goals is to make sure you understand what's going on, that it is a natural thing. It is something that your body has been made to do. So if we don't get that through to them initially, then it's hard to have that conversation in a birthing suite. So that's a big part of what I personally need to do better, so that when we get to that point, we can advocate for them in that way. Like, didn't you say you wanted to do this? Remember, we had this conversation. so that the birthing person is aware of what they wanted to do, and they're able to speak that out, because we've had those conversations over and over again. Like, these are your options. What do you want? So that when we get to that room, they can speak up for themselves, and we can just, yep, that's what she said. Because a lot of times it's, yep, that's what she wants.
Right.
And that co-signing is what doulas are really good at.
And plus, just also like, birthing is a very spiritual event.
Mm-hmm.
And to allow the natural physiological processes that happen within the body, I'm sure we've all seen it, that have done birth work, they leave their bodies. Like, they literally leave their bodies. Yep. Like, they're, and especially very specific points of laboring, right? So in those most vulnerable times is what I've noticed, that the most augmentations or kind of like things that can be done are happening, because they're not really here. Right. And if I don't know what you want, then unfortunately you're probably going to go along with it. So it's really important, like, to know what you want to experience. That's the biggest thing.
Facts.
Wow. So, I mean, to go back to what you all were saying at the beginning, like, this is radical work.
It is.
How many people are empowering people to embrace and be empowered and embrace their bodily autonomy and say, here's my body, here are my, like, Kristen, when you were talking about women saying, you know, or birthing people saying, like, here's when it's okay to touch my body, here's like when I tell you, how many times as a woman have I been made to feel like that's not okay to say outside of birthing, let alone to a doctor that I feel like with the like hierarchy of it has like more power and status in that space.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, what a groundbreaking work to be doing. And I mean, like, long before even like you're in the labor and delivery point of it, but like this really powerful, empowering work you're doing for women in our community. So thank you for that. Like, that, this is huge.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, if we can, I guess my biggest thing is, you know, there's a big difference from a hospital birth to home birth. And I literally see these birthing, they've all been women, all these women that have gone to their home birth and watched them give birth. And you're actually more likely to make better choices for your child and for yourself if you have a healthy labor and delivery, right? And where you go like, oh, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
I went to this birth a couple weeks ago, and she's like, holy shit. She's like, I just had a baby. And I was like, yeah, you did. And she's like, I just had a fucking baby at home. She's like, I'm a fucking rock star. And I'm like, absolutely.
Yes.
And that power, right, will transfer to her making healthy choices for her children. Not saying that you can have an amazing hospital birth where you know, set the tone and you say no and you know, but like, it's most often that's not happening in hospitals.
Right.
Right. But the transfers, it's very important. I see that in my own, for my children, to myself, and the choices that I made as a mother for them, you know, like, okay, like, yeah, like there are different options, right? Because that's part of it. A lot of people don't know there's options to things, you know? So, and women, I think also have, I mean, how many times as a woman have we just conceded to something sexual just because it was
right?
easy, right? So then does that transfer? Yeah, that transfers to like, okay, yeah, like the doctor's going to do this and it's going to hurt and it's going to be uncomfortable and I really don't want it done, but what choice do I have?
Yeah. I was literally thinking of gynecological tests. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I know that we signed the paper of form of consent, but it's like, it's still a lot to go in, right? And to do that, it's like, come on. Like, so yeah. So I totally, it's really, when you put it that way, it's like, I need somebody, an advocate with me, like to get this done. Like, you know, like
gynecological doulas.
I mean, medical doulas. Yeah, like for real. I mean, how many times people might have needed a person to go with them to their doctor's appointment and they don't have anybody. And they're like, I need to know what to ask. Yeah. And I just think it's the same. It's applicable to like, to doula work, but it's like, dang, if you think about it, we need to be doing this everywhere. Like, so yeah, it's wild.
Marty, were you going to ask something?
Yeah, so I wanted to, from listening to y'all, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like your role is a mix of like advocacy and empowerment. So like, when does that relationship start with yourself as the doula and the mother or the birthing parent? And like, what is that relationship also with, with a doctor or with a midwife? How does that work? And like, what happens after, birthday?
Just to clarify, so you're asking, like, how do the relationships start, or at like, I'm sorry,
with our clients,
with our clients
that happen?
I think that all depends on the person. Like, I know for me, like so my relationships that I've had with me getting doulas is through BirthRoot Community. So which we can even just go into that too, was through BirthRoot Community Doula Alliance. And that is the new, that's, Miss Tica, you can explain it. How about you do that? You explain. That's how I got connected with my doulas, with my clients. But I will say on the other end, it's gonna, for me, I want to do it based on I want that person to come to me. I don't want to feel like, hey, I'm a doula, I can support you. It's like, I'd rather the client say, hey, I'm really needing the support, and they come to me. But also, we also have our community doulas where we will have Miss Tica, who is going to explain that's how I've gotten my clients.
So BirthRoot, and I don't even know if Kristen remembers this, but Kristen and I met probably 3, 4, 5 years. I don't even remember. But he put something on Facebook about starting a community doula program. And I didn't know who she was, but I thought it was awesome because of the work that I do with the school district. I knew that those parents, our students had parents that were still having babies, and they needed the same kind of supports that they did. So when Kristen I can't even remember the name of the maternity.
The matrona. Yeah, Wapio.
Yep, she put that up. And I thought, that's a really good idea. It didn't happen. And I was like, man, that's still a good idea. So Kristen kind of planted that seed with me that we need to do something like that. So I was trying to find something in a way that we could do it. And then Ms. DaVona, she stopped me in the office and said, hey, tell me about what you do. And I did. And she's like, I would love to do that. So that kind of, between Kristen and DaVona, they really planted, they lit that fire so that I would do that, because I just thought, I'm the only person that's doing this stuff. I can't be the only person that's doing this stuff. So between these two women, it kind of inspired me to start trying to find some way for us to do it. So I wanted to make sure, because a lot of doulas, the way doulas are paid is it's just, you pay them. Most insurances don't cover them. They might reimburse you for doula work, but then you have to go through all the paperwork and rigmarole of submitting those claims. Medicaid insurances do not pay for doulas. So I wanted to make sure that if we assembled these women, and God kind of put these phenomenal women, like that class was the best class I've ever been in. These phenomenal women came around, and we took those courses, or that course, and I wanted to do something special, and I wanted to make sure that if they're serving, then they're being compensated, because it's work. So that's where the community doula organization came from. Is just me and these women kind of inspiring me to make sure that, because they probably do it for free, and they don't get as much money as they should for doing the work that they do, because it's not just in the hospital room. Like, that's not where our relationship begins. It has to, in order for us to get to that space where that woman feels safe, it begins earlier. The earlier, the better in a lot of cases. And in some cases, it kind of, because we look like our clients, it helps that relationship form sooner than they would otherwise. So we kind of came together and tried to make an organization so that we can serve prioritize Black women, because we're the ones that are suffering, and at three to four times more the death rate, and our babies are dying 2 times as much as other babies. So I wanted to focus on Black women, because there's a lot of resources in Erie, but there's not a lot of connections to those resources. So we wanted to kind of form BirthRoot Community Doula Alliance, so that we can kind of make those connections, so that our moms can not just survive. We want them to survive. We're barely doing that, but we want them to be able to thrive in their maternity, so they can take that space in their lives and grow and build from it. And so that's where BirthRoot came from, is just us trying to use the abilities that we already have. Kristen's been doing this stuff for years. DaVona's been mothering people for years. Like, all of the women in our group have had some kind of experience outside of doula work that has led them to this. So we wanted to kind of concentrate it and make it so that it was available to the women that needed it the most. So that's where BirthRoot came from, so that they can kind of use this as a platform to kind of own the rest of their lives and own their families and own their bodies.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from.
Yeah. And so in that class, when I was trained, that's where I met Kristen. We were trained with about how many other, because it's a good group of us, about now 9 of us.
There were 9 of you, and then there was 6 people from the parenting program that were also in the training.
Yeah. So, I mean, but to answer I'm sure that Kristen would like to share like how she gets connected with her clients. So go ahead and share how you do.
Well, I do get connected through BirthRoot, which is a different dynamic than when people just find you, right? Generally, when people find you, it's because there's probably a resonance of energy that, brings you to who you need, right? I totally believe that. I see that unfold in my life all the time. And with BirthRoot, it's a little different, because, it's women reaching out to BirthRoot, and then BirthRoot, giving different birthing people, mothers, to, the doulas. So yeah, it's different. And it's interesting too, because I think the dynamic, Marty, part of it is like the age group, right? So we get a lot of younger women that we doula with BirthRoot, and there's a whole different dynamic with, say, a 21-year-old than there is with a 32-year-old or a 35-year-old or a 28-year-old. There's there's a large difference in many ways. So sometimes it's a little harder. I've noticed that to connect with them, a lot of them just want to text. Like, you call them and they'll be like, "Oh, can we just text?" And I'm like, "No, I'm 42 years old. I call people. How am I supposed to share anything with you or really understand you if we're just texting? I'm not. That's why all of us are so disconnected. So it's definitely different. But so it's either that way or, people just find you. People always find me. I think people probably always find all of you, right? So they just kind of show up, which is great.
Yes, facts.
Well, I didn't think about the age differences and how
how
that impacts your mothering, right? Like what you expect going into the birthing process, and wow, that's interesting.
What they know, what they don't know.
Yes,
right.
Yes.
Right, like how much they honor themselves, their bodies.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yeah. It is different, because I know for me, one prime example is, I don't know. Do you guys know certain things you cannot eat when you're pregnant?
You've been listening to the Our Erie podcast.
Community voices unpacking Erie's baggage and speaking truth to power.
You can continue the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Our Erie Series.
Funding provided by United Way of Erie and Ember+Forge.
Music produced by Light Shadow.
We appreciate you for listening to the Our Erie podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself.
Keep fighting the good fight.
Peace.